When you're looking for your next coffee grinder, you're going to see a whole range of different prices. You're going to see things that come out of China around the $500 mark, and the Italian-made quality machines are around $1,500. Well, is this grinder priced at around $1,000 your next option? Let's take a deep dive and see if this is going to suit you. And guess what? It actually comes out of Italy. There's no doubt the number one question that we get asked is what grinder suits me best? And there are just so many options that it's a tricky one. But this grinder here is certainly one that you should look at. This is the Quamar Nemo-Q. And the reason why I think it's a good one to look at is the price point and the quality, because there is a huge difference between a Chinese-made grinder and an Italian-made grinder. Now, this is an Italian-made grinder. Quamar has been around for about 15 years making grinders, and I think this is actually one of the prettiest and nicest Quamars that's ever been made. You can get it in this beautiful black, it can be white, and you can get timber accents as well. So there's a whole range of different looks and feels that might actually suit you in a cosmetic side. But that's only one part. We want to look at what actually sets this grinder apart from the $500 Chinese grinder or having to spend even more. So let's look at some of the componentry. If we start at the top, you've got a very generous sized bean hopper. Now this will hold up to 500 grams, depending on the roast that you've got there, but it's quite big for a grinder at this kind of price point. As we come down, you've got your hopper slide, you've got a stepped grind adjustment as well, and it's down to 0.1 of a micron, so that's quite fine from a stepped grinder. And to be honest, when you're playing with stepped versus unstepped grinders, that isn't that big a deal. You could increase your dose, slightly change your grind size, and you would get a perfect result. I've only ever found myself when I'm on a coffee machine pumping out lots of coffees consistently, making a very micro adjustment would be something for me to maybe get 1 precise second difference in extraction. So in the home user market, I don't think it's something you really need to worry about. As those beans fall onto the grinding burrs, you're going to hit a 54mm set of stainless steel burrs. Now these flat burrs are pretty standard in what you see across all grinders around this price point, and I think there's nothing really different there. You could upgrade to a better set if you really wanted to, but I think it's going to be great for the value that you're going to get out of this grinder. When we go further down to the motor, that's what's going to be the biggest change in this grinder. It's actually a brushless motor. Now what does that mean? Well, how the motor works in terms of brushes or no brushes is basically how smooth the electric motor will work. Now that may not mean a lot to you until you start to actually grind. The consistency of an electric motor makes burrs move at a more consistent pace, giving you a more consistent grind, which then helps you with a lesser variation between superfines, fines, boulders, or what we might call rocks, or the variation of grind particle size that you can see into your group handle or your dose pot. So the better that close range of grind particle size is, the better the flavor is going to be. So that's a cool thing to have in this kind of grinder. But the one thing that we really love about it is actually the noise. Every cheap grinder that comes out of China is quite noisy. And also so many of the Italian-made grinders are noisy as well. But this one seems to be really quiet. It is very impressive. And even comparing to some commercial models, it's definitely one of the quieter grinders that we've come across. Now that's pretty quiet. You can hear me, it's not overly noisy, and it's not that super high-pitched sound that we get from other grinders, nor is it really loud and crunchy. So it's very acceptable in the home, not to wake up the whole family when you're having that 5 AM coffee. As we come around the actual chassis and the design, this is definitely a step up from previous Quamar grinders. They've redesigned the whole chassis. It's nice and heavy and durable. It's a one-piece casted metal of some sort. I don't know if it's aluminium or steel, but it's got some good weight to it. And it looks pretty. It's actually finished really well. It doesn't look cheap and glossy or metal, or like there's parts shared with other grinders across the market. So this really does present quite well for the price point. Then you've got your touchscreen display. It's actually really good. It's bright, it's easy to see, and it's quite responsive. We do find with some of the cheaper grinders that the LCD screens and the interface isn't quite easy to use, it doesn't navigate well, but also with a touchscreen, the buttons can be too small or they don't actually work when you press them in the right spot. But with this keypad, I found it to be really responsive, the colors are bright, and it's very simple and easy to use. You've got your single dose button, you've got your double dose button, you can then do a manual, And if you want to change any of the time that is applied to each one of those buttons, you hit the hamburger menu, which is those 3 lines, and you can see there you can increase or decrease very easily the difference between a single or the double shot in the amount of time that's going to be grinding into your dosing pot or portafilter handle. If you go through the menu further, you can actually have the reset of how many doses you've done for that particular day on the top line, and the bottom line is if you want to reset when you put a new set of burrs in. So it's handy to know how many grinds the grinder has done over the life of your grinder. It does come with this little dosing pot, which is super cute. I think it's a nice little dosing pot out of stainless steel. The one thing that I'm a bit challenged by is that it doesn't fit a 54mm Breville. It is not that size. And for a 58mm, well, it will work, but it doesn't fit as clean as a 58. So that's sort of lending me to think it's something like a 56 or 57, but essentially this top ridge is what's going to sit on top of your 58mm when you dose it over into a 58mm basket. So it'll work, but it's probably not as ideal as we'd want. But look, for a couple of bucks, you can get yourself the exact size dosing pot that you need for the handle that you've got for your machine. If you want to dose into a dosing pot, it's quite easy to adjust the cradle to give you a little bit more room so that it goes straight into the pot. Or if you want to go straight into the handle, there is just one flathead screwdriver, which is really simple to undo. Pop your handle in. You can drop the top little top locks down to adjust to your handle and tighten up that flathead screwdriver, and you're all set. So it's pretty simple and easy to adjust, like most other grinders, but it does hold it in quite nicely. So there's some of the aesthetics and the features of the actual grinder, but how does it actually grind? Well, we did a couple of tests for you. So this is a brand new grinder, and we know that new grinders do have a little bit more static than when you start to use them and wear them in over time. But I wanted to really show you what it was like. So straight into a dosing pot, we have no issues. It does hold a good dose and a good size, and we don't see too many grinds coming out because of static. There's a couple, but it's nothing really that I would be too concerned about. When we dose into a commercial portafilter handle like this La Marzocco one, we're trying to get a 22.5 gram dose, and it does allow the coffee to fall a little bit further and get a little bit more of a staticky cling. But as we've gone along and ground more, that has certainly reduced. So I think it's more the burrs just trying to wear in, and the age of our coffee and the lighter roast of our coffee that's really starting to cause a little bit more static than I would say. But with an RDT, we can do a very easy process in 2 squirts into your dosing pot and pop some beans in, and you can see that the RDT has fixed all of that static very easily. So if that's a real concern for you, maybe RDT or the bean selection and age is going to be the best way to fix that problem for you. So for me here at Artisti, there's been a big gap around that $1,000 mark. We used to have a particular grinder that we sold at $9.99, an Italian-made product that just disappeared, unfortunately, from a manufacturer. So this is going to be the grinder that we're going to be supporting because it does tick so many boxes for the $1,000 price point. If you're spending $500 on a Chinese-made grinder, and there's a few little challenges there, but if that's your budget, okay, that's cool. But I definitely urge you to have a look at the Nemo. It's definitely going to elevate the flavor of the coffee, the usability through the menu, and the quietness that that motor is going to give you. If you don't want to have to spend $1,500, it's definitely a great option for grinders. So you've got the choice of colors, it's super quiet, it's going to give you a good grind quality, so it ticks a lot of boxes for us. And the grinder comes with a 12-month manufacturer's warranty, so that's a nice little touch as well, especially out of an Italian grinder, but we don't see many issues with coffee grinders, I'll be honest, other than people blocking them up and doing silly things with them. So if you look after it, this Italian-made grinder will definitely look after you for a long time. You'll get a better extraction, you'll enjoy your coffee better, and I think that's the key here. A lot of people don't spend enough money on the right grinder to get the flavor on the beans that they spend. So spending a little bit more on a grinder, you'll see better results in the taste of the cup that you're creating. Anyway, you'll see this grinder on our website. So if you're interested in Australia, go to artisti.com.au and find the grinder. You'll see it packaged with a few different coffee machines or standalone by itself. If you've got any questions about it, I'll happily answer those. So anyway, yeah, what do you think? Is this the next kind of grinder? Do you like the look? Are you really worried about the noise, the grind size? What is it that you're looking for? Maybe leave a comment down below and let us know what you're looking for in your next grinder. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.